Chapter 7. Gala System. Gala, Maine. Good afternoon. I'm Karina with LYN News. It is now day 3 at Independence Square, where we await the arrival and capture of the fugitive Drazian. Who exactly he is remains a mystery, but his days of promoting unrest and rebellion are nearly over. The Federation intends to test their new initiative, Project New Mentality. Much like how the Relic were civilized and taught our peaceful ways, the Federation hopes to replicate those results on this Drazian. The Federation is about peace and justice and spreading those ideas throughout the universe. By not killing this Drazian, the Federation's tolerance may open up many new doors and possibilities, like, quite literally, the Drazian Gate system, as well as their planetary defense systems and a few other technologies still not completely understood by our scientists, said a young brunette wearing a clean white suit. There has still been no activity here at the gate, but stay tuned for the latest updates on this remarkable event, she smiled. All right, Karina, that's good for now, said a man sitting in a chair nearby. An electronic display showed the views from the camera, simultaneously switching from one to the other. She sat down in a chair and took a deep breath. God, this story is so boring. Why did I get stuck with this assignment? She sighed. I wish I was on some exotic planet, like Kinar 3, in the Great Jungle. Gala, Maine is so damn developed. It seems like every few weeks or so, it's another Drazian caught and killed. The viewers have grown bored of these stories. No one really cares about these terrorists anymore. A story is a story, mused the cameraman. The Drazian is a good one. Don't worry, it's all about to pay off. They don't usually take them alive like this. I got a tip that the Federation got word from Khaldun saying that the Drazian should be going through the gate today, replied the man. Karina perked up. Today? Wait, if they had a man on Khaldun, well then why the hell have we been waiting here for 3 days, retorted Karina, brushing off invisible flecks from her suit jacket. Look around you. Look at all the important people who have showed up for this. Senators, member of the War Council, Relg Honor Guards, and even the last Drazian Raylord, Chiron, showed up to watch. I don't get it. Why so much attention for this one? Why would Chiron show up to watch one of the last of his race get taken for experiments? The sick bastard, Karina said. He saved many lives. A fair fight with Drazia would have been very, very bloody. Think about how different our lives would be now if the Drazians had survived and won. Well, I think, Karina said as she was interrupted by a commotion. They both looked up to see the gate pulse a yellow light. A man with a trimmed black beard and strange set of glasses ran up to the control panel on the side. He punched in a few commands, and shortly thereafter, the panel turned green, and he ran back towards the crowd and disappeared among the people. Between the big posts, a long gray screen unfolded in front of them, growing more and more opaque until nothing could be seen behind it. The portal. It's active. Get the camera ready, ordered Karina. It's recording, the cameraman said as the portal was disrupted and a white-haired man appeared, stumbling through the gate and looking about wildly. As the old man felt solid ground underneath him, his eyes took in the scene. It was only a matter of seconds until he understood. This wasn't Epiroc. In front of him stood 4 Relg guards, staffs out, and pointed at the gate. Cordoned off behind them stood a large crowd of people, most of whom were dressed in Federation uniforms of some sort. Reporters in fine suits talked into cameras directed at him. There was a loud gasp as he had come through the portal, and murmurs spread throughout. He looked up and saw the blue sky and not a sand dune in sight. The air was not filled with the dust and particulate matter he was used to. He took in a deep breath. Then reality set back in as the Relg guards advanced on him. The Drazian, someone yelled. Stop, yelled a man in a gold and white uniform. That's no Drazian. Look at his eyes. Scan him. A little being in a green cloak ran up to the old man and threw a ball of metal into the air. It hovered, then circled the old man twice and returned to the little being. The commander, in the white and gold uniform, looked at the changing display pad on his left arm. Drom Grenier, he smiled. Wanted on 3 charges for breaching the Federation network and for collusion with Syrak rebels before the revolution. Take him to interrogation. 2 female guards in gold uniforms apprehended him and escorted him to the edge of the crowd and waited. As he was being led away from the gate, he noticed a man in bright white robes, short white hair, and double-ringed eyes. There was a whooshing sound as Phalaris stumbled through and landed face first on the ground. He got up quickly, feeling embarrassed, and brushed off his tan robes. "Where is he? Did you get him?" growled the commander. The observer took a look at the massive audience assembled before him, then took a deep breath and loudly announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Drazian," he said as he pointed towards the gate. A minute went by, and Phalaris started getting nervous. "Come on, Relg, push him through." Then the silver screen rippled and made another whooshing sound. A Relg stalker burst out at full sprint, surprising the Relg guards, who raised their weapons, but recognized their comrade at the last second, lowering them. The Relg stalker turned around surprised and began to walk back towards the portal. "It's a one-way portal," boomed the commander's voice. The stalker stopped, then looked around for a few seconds without a word, then finally went and stood by the Relg guards. It stared intently at the gate, waiting. Sweat rolled down Phalaris' face. The tone of the crowd was serious and quiet now. This was not the usual spectacle. There was another whooshing sound, and the gate began to ripple. This time another Relg burst through and fell onto the concrete ground, causing sparks to fly. On top of him was Uli, who rolled off on the impact and landed a few feet ahead. The Relg stood up and drew its staff, then advanced on Uli. The staff turned red and was still sparking from the orb when he brought the other end down on Uli. He rolled out of the way just in time to avoid the blast, which left a small crater where he was laying. A red spark leapt across the ground and bit him in the face, burning a series of lines across his right cheek. Uli backed away on all fours as the stalker advanced and once again brought up the staff. The Syrak backed into something solid and could no longer move as the staff came plummeting down. There was a release of energy as the staff collided with another. A Relg guard had intervened. The stalker looked at the guard and stared it down for a few moments. There was a crackling noise coming from behind them, and they turned just in time to see the gate dematerialize. The audience began talking loudly, and the reporters looked at the commanders for instructions. Phalaris anxiously appraised the situation. As he scanned the audience, he noticed Chiron, standing in pure white robes. 2 persons over from the Drazian stood a blonde-haired woman with dull green eyes. She wore the pitch-black robes of an archiver. Elia, one of the 3 female archivers, and not who he had expected to meet him there. Once again, good afternoon. As you just saw, the Drazian did not come through the gate, and it has destabilized. 1 Relg stalker remains back on Khaldun with the Drazian. So unfortunately, it seems that he has been killed and will not be able to help the Federation. That is not the way I would want to go. We will work on gathering more details, and you will be the first to know. Until next time, LYN News, over and out. Nice work, Karina. Let's pack up and get out of here. Fun's over, replied the cameraman. I don't understand why they just don't open up a portal to Khaldun and go check out the area, she said, looking at the cameraman for an answer. He threw his shoulders up. Oh, I don't know. Do I look like an expert on the gate system? I think it has something to do with someone on the other side needing to accept it. If I had to guess, whoever the Federation has on Khaldun probably wasn't at the portal. But don't quote me on that, replied the cameraman. I only wish I could have got an interview with one of those fugitives, or the observer. Why won't they let me report on him as well? I don't see what the big deal is. What a waste of time. I don't make the rules, I just follow them, the cameraman replied. Well, maybe you shouldn't follow them so religiously. The cameraman laughed. Yeah, and risk losing my recording license? Besides, rules are rules. If everyone starts breaking them, society would fall into chaos. Well, maybe you could use a little chaos, she muttered under her breath. The 2 packed up their gear and followed the general flow of people out of the square. Phalaris watched the crowd dissipate and turned to the right. surprised to be face to face with the commander in the white and gold uniform. "Commander Lelm, I did all I could to, and you failed," he interrupted. "It was a fairly simple mission. Entice the Drazian into the gate. We even sent the stalkers. They wasted all that time. Sir, that Drazian is smart and powerful. He can path. What could I possibly do against that?" Commander Lelm held up his hand. "Enough. Don't kill yourself over it. He was just a publicity stunt. I doubted the inhibitors would work anyway. I'd actually advocated to kill him the minute he came through the gate. He's dead now anyway." Phalaris nodded in agreement. "I'd like to hear the account from the Relg stalker," Lelm continued. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure how to get him off of Khaldun. Anyways, let's talk about something that matters." He looked around quickly, then lowered his voice. "When you get back to Epiroc, you are going to meet with Gaiti in the archives." Commander Lelm paused. "And then what?" "Probably best to wait and let him explain it to you in person," replied the commander. "Listen, Phalaris, I know your father. He's a good man, which is why I'm giving you a chance to help the Federation. Afterwards, you'll be rewarded with a decent political post somewhere." The observer looked cautiously at the commander. "What are you planning on doing to the archives?" Anger poured into the commander's eyes. "For too long, those arrogant bastards have considered themselves above the Federation, above us, the common people. We are all equal, Phalaris. None are better than others. It is time the archives understood that, and a week from now, they will," said the commander, starting to breathe heavily. Phalaris thought about it for a second. "I don't give a fuck about the archives. I hate this job, and I want out. But I don't want to be fighting against any archivers." "You won't have to do any fighting. Don't worry about that. Leave the fighting to us. We just need you and Gaiti to handle the archives defense system." "Is she with you too?" asked Phalaris, gesturing to the blonde archiver. "Elia? No. Unfortunately, she is not." "Why is she here? I figured it would be Archiver Gaiti who showed up." Lelm shrugged. "Beats me. I thought so too." "Well, it's rare for an archiver to go out and take observations. That's why they have us observers," said Phalaris. "Oh shit, here she comes now. Remember, don't say anything to anyone but Gaiti. He's the only person you can trust inside the archives," said the commander, turning to greet the approaching archiver. "Elia, how nice to see you again here on Gala." Smiling, she approached the two. "I see you had another successful operation here today, Ikure." The commander dropped his smile and gave her a stern look. "How can I help you?" "I would like to take the two from Khaldun to the archives to fill in the accounts of the Drazian and gather a better picture about the current state of Khaldun, specifically the Basin region." The two? The commander had forgotten about the other one. He searched around and found him next to a Relg guard, hands bound in a hyperlink. The group walked over to the prisoners. "Missus, give me a scan of that one." The little being in the green cloak again threw a shiny orb into the sky. The Relg guard took a few steps back as the device completed its scan and returned to its master. Commander Lelm looked at the display and waited. Finally, a picture appeared alongside a paragraph of words. He furrowed his eyebrows and brushed upwards on the screen to read more. Finally, he looked up at the prisoner and walked over towards him. The observer and archiver followed. "Uli Mandriggs, the Slith of Sirac. I was there, you know, at the Battle of Sirac IV, Faradun, or whatever you call it by," he laughed. "You somehow managed to slip by the outer formation and almost made it to the tunneler." He laughed again, then stayed idly for a few seconds. "You know, that might have worked." A wave of remembrance washed over Uli's face. "Tell me, I never found out what went wrong. How did you know I was there?" The commander thought about it for a few seconds, then decided to tell him. "Well, Uli, do you remember a man by the name of Monk?" "Commander Tayo," he replied. "Yes, of course I remember him. He served in the same chain of command as me. He was one..." He paused, thinking. One of the mission planners. What does he have to do with this? Well, let's just say it's Senator Tayo now, chuckled the commander. Uli's eyes widened and face turned red with anger. What? He sold out to the Federation? Leln smiled. He realized that Sirak stood no chance against us. After Drazia was destroyed, where else would your people find another ally? Goman? He laughed. No other system dare oppose us. He knew the war could not be won. Because he's a coward, growled Uli. Some people just want a peaceful life. We in the Federation only want happiness and pleasure, replied Lelm. The Federation has an inferiority complex. You and your people can't stand the fact that there were naturally superior races and planets out there, so you had to destroy them. You deliberately dumbed down your own race for subjectification. Subverted planet after planet, pulling them into the peaceful Federation. But there were those with intellect, those who would not bow. Drazia, Sirak, Goman. How long before the other two are destroyed? You experimented on and practically exterminated the Relg race, leaving only these unthinking monstrosities. He gestured to the Relg guard standing near him. Enslaving the Ishinai, and the commander cut him off as his eyes hardened. The nerve on you. Neither the Drazians or the Siraks were superior to us. Look at what happened to them both. The only reason your planets are still alive today is because we went for Drazia first, giving you time to prepare. You have destroyed the intellect of men across galaxies. Your science is dirty and littered with fear. Worst, that you've doomed all races by stunting growth and free thought. There are other things out there besides the present-day amalgamation of races we call society. The prawns are enough, spat the commander. He turned to the archiver. You can take Grenier for a week. Then he comes back to us. You can't have this one. He is too dangerous. He turned back to Uli, more relaxed now. You will spend the rest of your life in tank. Uli recoiled at the name. Then he turned to face the archiver and observer. Since when did the archives capitulate and become the Federation's bitch? Sending observers to trap Drazians? What the hell happened to the high honor and dignity that I heard the archivers possessed? The ultimate neutrals? He watched the archiver's dull green eyes go distant, her lips pressed together and her hand curled into a tight fist. Times have changed, I guess, she spat, looking more at Lelm than Uli. Then she called over the guard holding Grenier, who brought him over. He is coming with me. Give me his key. The Relg guard looked at the commander, who nodded. The guard pushed the old man towards her and handed her the key to the hyperlink. Elliot glared at the commander, then took the prisoner and started walking off, then stopped and turned around. Phalaris, what are you waiting for? You're coming with me, by request of Archiver Gaidi. Do hurry, our ship leaves in 30 minutes. Phalaris looked briefly at Lelm with uncertain eyes, then hurried after the archiver and prisoner. The commander watched the three walk off into the distance towards the spaceport. The Relg guard escorted Uli in a similar direction. Lelm now stood in a nearly empty square. A man wearing an expensive suit approached him. Today was a disaster, said Commander Lelm. Ignia, don't beat yourself up over it. A Drazian pet would have been nice to have, but in the end, they aren't that useful. Just make sure the archive operation doesn't become a disaster. That is much more important right now. No worries, Senator. Hopefully this observer won't screw up again. It's hard to believe he will. After all, Gaidi will be there instructing him. However, this time there is a plan B. We will be able to take it with or without their help. I know, smiled the man in the suit. It's about time the arrogance of the archives was tamed. Lucas, after this mission, may I be so bold as to request to be put back on the front lines? Against Sirak, that is. I love the action and want to be there when the system is finally laid to waste. Senator Monk looked out into the distance. Time will tell, Ignia. Time will tell. Spaceport, Gala System. That observer of yours is a lying sack of shit, snarled Drom. He told us he had a scroll for Epiroc, that we were heading to the archives. Elia glanced at Phalaris, then back at Drom. Well, you're headed there now, she replied. Observers can't typically read scrolls anyway. They only know how to input them. He probably thought he was heading to Epiroc. Isn't that right, Phalaris? Yes, ma'am. That's where I thought we were heading. The Federation must have changed the scrolls on me, he answered with relief. The three of them walked down the long, well-lit corridor. As they passed by the enormous windows, light and medium-class spaceships could be seen. Sparks flew from some as maintenance and repairs were made. Some exchanged power cores, while others simply sat and waited for their passengers to arrive. On one wing of the spaceport, shuttles were taking off every 10 minutes, heading off to the heavy-class ships and above. Gala was a huge transit hub, and the orbiting space was occupied by massive freighters, cargo ships, transport trains, and commercial space liners. They walked their way along the private wing, where the rich merchants, businessmen, and politicians kept their ships. The archives were afforded their own hangar here. At last, they turned the corner to their private terminal. A Saurian sat waiting and stood up when she saw the approaching archiver. I managed to get us down to a 4-node flight. That should save us a few hours, she informed Elia as she met them. She gave the other two a look. Priya, this is Phalaris, one of Gaeti's observers. And this is, what's your name again? Elia gestured to the old man. Drom Grenier, at your service, he stated, and soon to be in the hands of federal interrogators once we're finished. He's from Khaldun, and I've been waiting to find out what has happened there since the net was in place. Except for the few days that Phalaris was there, we haven't had any observers on that planet since. I see, replied Priya. The ship is ready to go. Might I have a word with you quickly? Elia nodded. Phalaris, take Drom, the old man stated, slightly annoyed. Take Drom here and wait at the ship's gangway. We'll be along soon. What is it? Asked Elia. The Federation performed a mandatory safety compliance check while you were gone. I performed a quick check afterwards and couldn't find anything suspicious. Do you think it's safe to travel? She asked. Elia ran her hand through her long hair, thinking the situation over. They likely wanted our flight records. Yes, let's fly back, but just in case, we won't park in our main hangar. Let's store the ship over an Epiroc commercial. Okay, I just wanted to let you know. Priya nodded and turned towards the ship. Thanks. Now let's hope we don't blow up halfway there by some Fenton raiders. She laughed without smiling. The two met Phalaris and Drom standing at the gangway. The archival ship was a light-class spaceship, a speeder meant to quickly zoom archivers around galaxies. These types of ships were usually reserved for the rich, diplomats, or politicians. Archival ships were devoid of all luxury, however, and rather built more militaristically, with more storage room, speed, and stealth capabilities. Priya typed something into the pad on her arm, and the gangway lowered. They filed into the ship, sat down and strapped in. There was a jolt as it took off up into the sky. 2 Galleon engines provided more than enough power to punch the ship out of Gala's main atmosphere and into the space outside. The ship followed the designated lanes to the node. A laser shot out at the node control center and struck a small box on top of the archival ship. Priya punched in some number, and the laser shut off. They were the 4th ship in the queue. After 5 minutes, the ship automatically turned and plunged forward into the circular hole that was the node. When they came out, the stars were completely different. What galaxy is this? Asked Drom. Telenara, replied Elia. The ship then maneuvered to the next node, and after 3 more hops, they were in the right galaxy. Kiro Kinar, said Elia. She smiled as she looked out the window at the passing planets. Then her smile faded, and her green eyes glazed over. Drom looked out the window and saw 4 enormous federal cruisers. They appeared to be heading in a different direction. Where are they going? Asked Drom, concerned. It appears they're heading for Kinar, Maine, she answered. There's a Federation base there, correct? Elia nodded. Tell me, I've been away from civilization for 12 years, but have they figured out how to send heavy-class ships through commercial nodes? No, they haven't, she replied. Is there a tunneler here? Drom asked. Not that I'm aware of, she responded. So they traveled all that way on propulsion? That must have taken what? About 2 years, right? 1, likely. They have improved propulsion in the past 12 years. Still, a year-long mission is quite a big time commitment to send such valuable ships out here. What are they doing? An exhibition? Show of force? I would have thought these would have been sent straight to Sirac, continued Drom. As would I, said Elia. The archival ship curved around one of the moons of Kinar, Maine, and the cruisers went out of sight. The ship picked up speed, and Drom watched the lights on the supermassive planet's dark surface. Pretty soon, they too faded away, and a smallish, violet-colored planet appeared in the window. Epiroc, announced Priya.